Okay, so this unit aims to introduce you to key aspects of all businesses and how they operate within the wider business environment, as well as internally. So you'll explore the important business areas of finance, customer service, planning, decision making, and operational control, which is rather quite important because that covers a number of other areas that are not in this particular unit, but are very important to management structure, and that is people management. There is a separate unit on that, but managing people is one of the most difficult areas because nobody's the same, everybody's different. So it's learning that side of it as well. So for a pass, it's asking you, hello? Are you still there?
I don't know what's going on with the internet.
Ah, did it throw you out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, the assessment criteria, I'll just go through. It's identifying common functions and divisions found in larger organisations. Again, use examples to describe different structures within organisations and describe the key differences between public, private, voluntary sector and public service organisations. Now those are I'll come back to those in a while, but it's again, for a merit you need to look at the advantages and disadvantages of each of the structures that you've mentioned in the past section. And in the distinction section, it's explained why an organisation may choose to change its structure and the impact it may have. So it's actually all follows one straight on this one. Sometimes I feel the merit and distinction don't completely follow the pass, but in this case they do, because it's asking you to do something here which you can then expand on here and expand on there. So there's quite a bit in LO1. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the different functions and divisions, but what I wanted to do is make sure that everybody understands the difference between, you've got two PLCs, a public limited company and a private limited company, and most people get those two confused. The easy way to remember that is that a public limited company has its shares on the stock market and people can buy and sell those shares. People can buy and sell those shares as they wish. Now, a private limited company, again, is limited by the amount of money that's set up when it was set up, but the shares can only be moved within the actual organisation, so that the people who work within the organisation or are officers of the organisation can exchange, sell and pass shares. Most of the companies that allow employees to buy shares can only, the employees can only sell those back to the company. They can't sell them elsewhere. So there are certain rules and regulations on there. Some of the PowerPoints I've mentioned earlier cover those things. And this is what we're going to look at today. I'll just go over the rest of the unit so that you've got an overview of the whole thing. So LO2 is about the financial concepts used within organisations, explain key accounting concepts, describe the stakeholders who wish to understand an organisation's financial situation, people like accountants and so forth, and then describe the kinds of business information which can be provided by budgets. Okay. For a merit, again, there are two merit operations in this one, and interpret accounting information using the key accounting concepts, explain how and why budgets are monitored and managed and the process used. And step-by-step budget management and environment. Okay. Explain how stakeholders' interests might influence an organisation's financial decision making. Well, again, it depends on the structure of that particular organisation and how it operates. If it's a private limited company, then it has to find its own finance. It either finds the finance within the shareholders, or it will go to lending authorities of one kind or another to gain finance. Public limited companies can use those same methods to gain finance, but they can also go outside and sell further shares, or do another shares issue. So literally about customer services, explain the importance of excellent customer service to organisations and describe the elements of excellent customer service. Differentiate between functional and personal customer expectations and how an organisation can delight a customer in both areas. That means going above and beyond. Evaluate cost implications of poor service and propose customer service improvements in your own organisation. Yeah. Oops. 4 is looking at the key aspects of planning. Explain why business planning is important. Describe the importance of mission, vision, business strategy, and organisational objectives and how they are used in business. You see, many a time now, a company will have a mission statement and a vision of where they want to be. That may be aspirational. It may not be that they're not in a position to achieve that in the short term. It may be a longer term vision. And then explain the key elements of a business plan and how it is created. And we'll cover all that. There are no merits and distinctions in LO4. LO5 is looking at operational control. Explain why an organisation needs operational control. Describe the systems organisations use to achieve operational control. Identify different types of information which enable managers to have control and how they use the 3-stage control loop. And finally, 6, oops, stop jumping. Understand the decision-making process and describe different techniques that managers can use to help make decisions, help in decision-making. Describe good and poor business decisions based on what impacts they would have on the business. Evaluate your own skills in decision making in terms of the techniques used and outcomes and sensitivity to the culture of others. So again, there's a bit of people management starting to arrive in that LO6. So that's an overview of the unit itself and the criteria you need to achieve. It is, of course, done through different sections of an assignment which you'll be given to actually reach that point. So let's go back from there and look at the assignment. Now, as before, some of the assignments cover directly the criteria as they stand. Others do cross over into other areas. So on this first one, it will cover 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3, 1M1 and 1D1. So task 1 literally does LO1, and this is what we're going to look at first. So the scenario is that John Marshall is a sole trader. That is a type of business, as you know, and he owns Toolbox, a traditional hardware store in the north of England, and sells good quality materials and tools within a specialist and competitive market. He employs some part-time staff and maintains manual business control and financial records. He is aware of the need to develop his business and is keen to acquire new ideas which will enable him to manage the organisation more effectively as it grows. However, as a sole trader, he's very involved in the day-to-day operations of the business and has little spare time. This, of course, is as he expands, he will have less and less spare time unless he changes the way in which he controls the business. So John has offered you a work placement. Having heard about the qualification you are completing, he has asked you to prepare a range of materials which will help him to consider future changes to business practice. You will produce presentation materials, supporting notes and information sheets, employee handbook and sections of a business handbook. Now, those are the things you need to produce, and you'll have to present them in a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Now, when you do PowerPoint presentations, I always make sure that you just don't put the headings in and send those in. You need to actually put some notes with each of the slides. It's like when you deliver a PowerPoint presentation, you will have a number of words up on the screen, but then you will extemporize on those to explain a little bit more about them, and those are what your notes should contain. Jonathan has also provided his latest set of business and financial accounts in appendix. Yeah. So task 1. An initial meeting has been arranged with Jonathan, which will focus on the key features of a business environment. Knowing that Jonathan is always busy, you decide to produce a document for the use at the meeting, and this will assist the discussions. In the document, you should identify common functions and divisions found in business organisations, describe different organisational structures, providing appropriate examples for each of the organisational structures, describe the key differences between public, private and voluntary sector and public service organisations. Public service organisations similar, like the NHS, I think that's a good example. They don't have to make a profit, but they tend to, if they can, in certain areas where they make losses in others. The voluntary sector generally is there to make money for charities and that sort of thing. Again, public limited companies and private limited companies I went on about before. I won't cover that again. So the extension activities is, to gain a merit, you must prepare a separate document for Jonathan to read outside of business hours, which explains the advantages and disadvantages of each of the organisational structures you have covered in the document you prepared for the meeting. To gain a distinction, in the second section of this document, or you provide a second section of the document, which must explain why a business organisation may choose to change its structure and impact that might have. One of the areas, as a business grows, its structure does need to change. It's finding that point at which the change must be made that's important. If you've started as this one is, in the example here, it's basically, he's almost a one-man band. He's got some part-time staff, but he's fully involved in the business and it's taking up much of his time. Now, as he expands, he will then have to look at the change in structure. He will need to have, it may be a fairly flat structure in which he is involved, but he has got people sort of with him on the same level doing a number of tasks that he can then leave to them to get on with. How he manages that, we'll look at later on. So, are you understanding what you've got to do now?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Sorry?
It should be all right.
Yeah. I'll quickly look at task 2 because it gives you an idea. I'm not going to. I'll come back to LO1 in a minute. But task 2 is looking at producing a business handbook, which looks at a key range of accounting concepts, description of the stakeholders who need to understand an organisation's financial position, a description of the information that is provided by business budgets, an explanation of the importance of excellence for customer service, a description of the elements of excellent customer service, and an explanation of why business planning is important. A description of mission, vision, business strategy and organisational objectives. The description should include details of how these are used in business organisations and an explanation of the key elements of a business plan and how it's created. So if you, it doesn't matter what business you decide to start, all of these things you will have to take into account and fully understand to actually produce a business plan, because a plan has got to be workable. This is where sometimes the mission and vision statements can be aspirational, but the business plan has to be absolutely solid and workable and achievable. And it's looking at what you would like to do and what you're going to be able to do over a given period, and explaining the difference between the two. To gain a merit, you must also include information in your handbook that interprets the final statements using appropriate accounting concepts provided in Appendix 1. And to gain a distinction, you must include the following information in your business handbook: an explanation of how stakeholders' interests might influence a business. These could be shareholders or anybody who has an interest in the business may influence, for instance, how decisions are made with regard to finance, who provides the finance, what levels of interest would have to be paid, and that sort of thing. An evaluation of the cost implications of poor customer service, both internal and external customers. Internal customers are business to business, and of course external customers are customers coming off the street that are going to buy your goods and wares, whatever you're selling. An exemplar set of proposals for improving customer services, and these proposals should be drawn from the business organisations you have researched and have comprehensible working knowledge of. So that covers LO2, 3 and 4, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, and the merit and distinction. LO3, exactly the same, and it covers LO4, 1.1, 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. So that is actually a big task 2. Task 3 and 4 are a little more workable in that in considering employing an operations manager who wishes to be prepared for the interviews and asks you to provide some detailed notes for him to read. He also plans to use this information to produce the questions he will ask at the interview. So your notes must provide an explanation of why business organisation requires operational control, a description of the systems business organisations use to achieve operational control, and a description of the different techniques that managers can use to help decision making. So these are explanations and descriptions, yeah. For a merit, you need to an identification of the different types of information which enable managers to have control and how they use the 3-stage loop. A description of good and poor business decisions and based on the impacts on the business organisations. And that was looking at LO5, including the merit, and LO6, including the merit. And for a distinction 1 of LO6, D1, you need to do task 4. Now, obviously, you wouldn't have to do this if you weren't aiming for the distinction, but this is separately done on its own. So your placement's coming into an end. You want to learn from your experience of completing the work for Jonathan. You also need to take into account other experiences, for example, from your time spent studying, part-time employment, or work in a voluntary or personal capacity. So to gain the distinction, you must provide a personal skills evaluation of your own skills, and the example should evaluate your own decision-making skills in terms of the techniques you would use and the outcomes and sensitivity to the culture of others. This is, again, as I said, this one brushes on making sure that you don't alienate your staff internally. Ooh, excuse me. So that's an overview of the whole unit. Going back to task 1, read the scenario again clearly before you make any start. Yeah. And also then once that's started, identify what you need to do, make a list. So you've got to identify the common functions and divisions, describe different structures, providing examples, and describe the key differences between public, private, voluntary sector and public service organisations. Let's just put that down for a minute. So on LO1, this logo, oh, here we are, I've got you. Now, there are 32 slides on here, which I'm not going to insult your intelligence by going through each one with you, but I'll have a look at the early ones, just put you in the position. So it's looking at common functions and divisions found in organisations. A typical business organisation may consist of production, research and development, purchasing, marketing, human resource management, and accounting and finance. Now, you probably wouldn't find all of these in a one-man business. Obviously, these are of a larger organisation that has achieved a certain level and will have people or managers of each of the divisions in place. So you'll have a production manager, somebody in charge of research and development. Purchasing and accounting and finance quite often fit together. Sometimes they're completely separate, but quite often companies use that to make sure that their purchasing is within the accounting and finance budget. They're not buying stuff that they can't afford or that they don't particularly need at a specific time. Because as larger organisations grow, there are a number of systems that they use to make sure that they don't have loads of stock on hand, that stuff is bought as and when it's needed, and delivery time set up and so forth. Marketing is usually a separate operation because there is a big difference, of course, as you know, between marketing and selling. And then finally, accounting and finance. Again, sometimes it's separate. It may be a separate organisation. Your accounts may be done by a different company. And again, smaller organisations may use the new type of QuickBooks and things like that you find online. And you can use from your phone and stuff like that to make life easier for the person working on their own. So identify that the functions and divisions found within an organisation. So it goes through the different functions, what production does, how it manages, it supervises a workforce, it manages the quality of the product, the maintenance of the equipment needed and resources needed, the control of inventory, what they've got and what they can produce, and deciding the best production methods and the factory layout. How this is very important if you've got product that is made in different parts, or something like the food industry where it goes through several processes before you end up with the final piece of whatever it is you're making. So there will be the best way to lay out the factory so that it goes through in a logical order and is not jumping backwards and forwards. Sometimes close coordination will usually be necessary between production and various other functions. R&D will be involved, marketing, finance concerning the availability of funds for purchase of new equipment and for the acceptability of inventory levels. Oops, back jumped. And again, human resource management concerning staff and the different motivation informations or job design and production methods. quite often those industries I was just talking about, where they have a product that is made in many stages, staff will be doing probably a very boring job time after time after time. What a number of companies have tended to do is train the operators up that are doing this operation on the several stages that make up the production of whatever it is they're making, so that they can move round and have a different task to do a different week or however long they determine that they need to be in that particular area. And it also allows things like when you've got somebody off sick, you can move somebody into another section temporarily because they are trained up to do that. So there are a lot of things that make sense in there. Purchasing function, concerned with acquiring goods and services for use by the organisation. Again, for raw materials, components for manufacturing, also production equipment. The responsibilities of this function usually extend to buying goods and services for the entire organisation, not just the production function, including office equipment, furniture, computers, stationery. Buying goods and services, purchasing managers must also take into account a number of factors collectively. The purchasing mix, namely quantity, quality, price and delivery. And this is where they do get into accounts and finance to some extent as well. So quantity is buying large quantities can attract price discounts, but it may be that there's substantial costs involved in carrying that stock. Okay? The trade-off between the price of what you pay for something and the quality of that material. I'll give you an instance. Many years ago, I watched the men land on the moon. And they were ready for firing off to come back. And one of the astronauts said to the other one, "I hope it starts." And the guy said to him, "Well, just remember that this was built by the bloke that gave the lowest quote." I always thought it was quite funny, that. But anyway, the quality and the price are very important factors.
All right.
I'm going to look at, I'll jump a few here. Marketing is looking at identifying and satisfying customer needs, not actually just selling to them, making something and then selling it. It's finding out what the customer needs and wants and then making sure that you produce, you know, the goods that they require. But marketing is quite a bit wider operation, but it will include oops, jump again. The purchasing mix that we've done. Yeah, the 4 Ps, jumped again. Doesn't like me this morning. Product, price, promotion and place, which you covered. I think you've done the marketing unit, haven't you? Did you do that yet?
What is it? Marketing.
The marketing unit. There is a marketing unit in this qualification.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have done that with one of the others. I've only been involved with the ones that I deliver on here. Yeah, so you'll know most about that anyway already. As I said, I'm not going to go through all of this, but again, I'll cover a bit of human resource function because that, as I've said before, and I say all this always to prospective managers. Managing people is the most difficult of the management operations. And if you can get to be good at managing people, you don't necessarily have to be part of the human resource function, but you get them people to do what you want them to do, not just because you've told them to do it, because they want to do it. And it's having that psychological impact on the staff and wanting them wanting to work for you rather than it being an uphill shove all the time. many years ago, this was never even looked at, and people were just looked as resources. Yeah, and it was literally, this is your job, get on with it, and if you didn't like it, leave. Now it's a different approach now, and I realise that people operate better in that sort of environment rather than the other that I was mentioning. So it's looking at employee relations, negotiations over pay and conditions, grievance procedures and disciplinary matters, and dealing with complaints from employees or from the manager, from the employer. A number of the HR department will have a number of strategies that for dealing with employee relations. Pay and conditions may be determined by a number of factors, some of which are basically an appraisal on a yearly basis or less. Looking at the function of the job, if it extends, then maybe actually compensating for that extension. So there are strategies developed within human resource to make sure that the flow of work and the people doing that work are in harmony rather than in conflict, which can happen very quickly and very easily. Where's that gone? I want to double look at that. Right, here we are. I've jumped, sorry. Different structures. So simple organisational structure is the default operating system used by most small businesses because it centralises decision making with the owner. Unlike other organisational structures, it's simple or flat structure and doesn't have formal departments and layers of management. Its method of running the company has advantages and disadvantages, and understanding them, it's really helped you understand. The one in the scenario is at a stage where it's already using this system and it needs to actually start to do something different. So this area is important. The owner will literally delegate tasks to individual employees who will report to him or her. As the company grows, staff members begin to specialise. The owner might give somebody all of the company's marketing tasks. You might give somebody else all the office management responsibilities, and give somebody else the job of keeping the business's computer up and running. So again, as a business grows, its structure will change purely because of the way that the company is growing. Yeah. Functional is also called bureaucratic because it's mainly for larger organisations. It's traditional business with the sales department, the marketing department, customer service, etc., etc. And the advantage of this structure is that individuals are dedicated to a single function, and these clearly defined roles and expectations limit any confusion taking place. The downside is that it's challenging to facilitate strong communication. You have to have very strict communication lines between those departments to make sure that they're not either treading on each other's toes or missing things that are falling between the gaps, if you like. A divisional is where it's even bigger company, yeah, and you will have different divisions within there that produce different products or completely different projects. It's giving an example of Gap. Different retailers underneath the heading Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, all these operate in an individual or as an individual company, but they are underneath the Gap brand. So that's using examples of divisional. It can be one of the other examples of that I can give you is like an oil company. It will have its research and drilling operations, stuff like that. It will have a production operation. It will then have sales organisation it will have a wide range of things. And some of these companies, they don't actually have their own division. They will buy in another company. It will come under their overall structure, but it will operate pretty much well as it did before. General Electric is another one. It owns dozens of companies and brands. In this country, if you think about it, all our utilities, like electricity, water, gas, are owned by franchised sometimes, but also owned by individual companies. For instance, I think most of the water industry is owned by Germans, and they will have they will be parts of different organisations. I know my local bus company says Preston Bus, but it's actually part of a Spanish company called Rotala. And these are very large and diverse organisations where they have divisions. Oops, you've jumped again. So General Electric chart will look something like that. It's got a whole range of different things: business development, commercial operations, legal department, global research, human resources, finance. And then it will have growth operations, energy, capital, home and business solutions, healthcare, aviation, transportation. All of these are within the group. Have you gone again? Hello? Are you there? No, she's gone again. Hi, Alexander. Are you there? We've lost you again. No, I won't talk this word. Let me phone. With my phone, I've lost her again. Trouble with this morning. Hi, Alexander, it's Phil.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it's just, you just cut out. Anyway, what I was, are you still on screen?
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll speak to you on the phone then, and I'll just pick up that last bit again. I've lost it actually. Oh no, it's here. Can you see that? Can you see that on screen now? Yeah, yeah.
No, yours thing is stopped as well.
Oh right, I'm with you. Right, the whole thing stopped. Right, it's just showing that it's gone off. It's on your little picture at the side. It's just got that both are switched off for some reason.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Try to go again and.
Yeah, try to log in again and see what happens.
Oh yeah, now it's done. Now it's done.
Ah, you've got, yes, I've got another picture appeared just below.
Yeah.
There's still no sound on it though, according to this. Not on computer audio, it says. Ah, can you see my screen though now?
Yes, I can.
Ah, that's fine. We'll talk on the phone. Plenty of minutes on the phone. So yeah, literally, what I want you to do for as soon as possible now is to work on task 1. Look at the main activities first, yeah, and we'll look at the extension activities next week. If you can produce some work in between times, anytime you want to have a look at it, just send it through in the normal way to learn a work. I'll pick that up and give you some feedback, yeah. So yeah, make a start with task 1, the main features of the business environment. Again, there's material on the BLE, you can access that and have a look through those. And if you need further information on there are a couple of handouts on there as well that you can read through. So, having said that now, have you got any questions before we actually close?
No, that should be alright.
You're okay with that? That's fine. Of course, any time you've got a question or you're not sure, just text me and let me know. Okay then. Thanks for attending, and we'll close now today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.